For 10 years, my life's mission was to save the tragic heroine and her doomed best friend. Chloe Sullivan, the supporting character originally destined to be stabbed to death by a pack of thugs while protecting the male lead at 18, was now an A-list movie star I had built from the ground up. Jessica Moore, the story's love-obsessed heroine who was supposed to suffer through a dozen back-alley abortions for that same man before dying alone on a delivery table, was now a powerhouse CEO I had mentored. But the moment Zane Garrett, the original male lead, reappeared, everything reset to zero. After they betrayed me for the 99th time to defend him, my heart finally turned to ash. I called out to the system. I want to go home. The familiar, mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Mission progress has been declared a failure. Host cannot detach. However, all accumulated points can be redeemed to terminate the salvation contract. Host may then live in this world as a free individual. I stared at the two women standing guard over Zane, a bitter, hopeless smile twisting my lips. Then terminated. The ink on my new freedom was barely dry when I ran into Jessica and Chloe in the hospital corridor. The two girls who once orbited me, constantly seeking my attention and affection, were now fussing over Zane Garrett. Zane, does your leg still hurt? Don't worry about the accident. I've already spoken to my lawyers. It wasn't your fault. It was obvious there was something wrong with Lucas Thorne's car. Even if he sues for medical bills and repairs, Jessica and I will cover it. You just focus on getting better. They only noticed me when Zane did. The warm smiles vanished from their faces, replaced by a sterile coldness. Zane mumbled, his voice dripping with reluctance. Sorry, Mr. Thorne. I didn't mean to get drunk, take your car, and, run you over. But you were the one standing in the way of the garage door. Jessica immediately jumped to his defense, her brow furrowed. Zane, why are you apologizing? It wasn't your fault. Then, she shot me a suspicious glare. There was clearly something wrong with the car. Lucas should have warned you. Chloe nodded furiously. Exactly. Leaving a faulty car where someone could just take it. Lucas is the one primarily responsible. If anyone should be apologizing, it's him to you. A wave of bitterness washed over me. The world we inhabited was a trashy romance novel. The original male lead, Zane Garrett, was a high school cliché. The smoking, drinking, class-skipping bully who dropped out to become a deadbeat. Yet, this piece of work was blessed with impenetrable plot armor, and a legion of women fell head over heels for him. Chloe Sullivan was supposed to die in a street fight at 18, shielding Zane from a rival gang. I changed her fate, got her into a prestigious acting school, and poured millions into her career, turning her into one of the hottest stars in Hollywood. And Jessica Moore? The heiress was supposed to fall for Zane at first sight, cut ties with her family to marry him, and waste away in a tiny, roach-infested apartment. Her life was a blur of poverty and repeated miscarriages, ending with her bleeding out alone in a hospital ward. I'd sent her to study abroad, taught her everything about running a business, and helped her become the formidable CEO she was today. But ever since Zane reappeared, it was like a hard reset. All my work undone. I had no energy left to argue. I've already filed a police report, I said, my voice flat. The truth will come out. Zane's face soured. Lucas, come on. We're all friends here. You don't need to get the cops involved, do you? He had a few scratches and needed two women to hold him up. I, on the other hand, had two broken legs encased in thick plaster casts, yet they looked right through me. Zane straightened up, jutting his chin out with unearned confidence. Tell you what, you apologize to me, he declared, and I'll pretend this whole car crash thing never happened. How about that? A cold, incredulous laugh bubbled up inside me. I apologized to him? The truth was, Zane got wasted, heard from Chloe and Jessica that I'd bought a new $10 million hypercar, and swaggered into my home to take it for a joyride. I heard the noise in the garage late at night and went to investigate, only to have a drunk Zane floor the accelerator and run me down. And now, he wanted an apology. Unbelievably, Jessica tried to reason with me. Lucas, just say you're sorry. What's the big deal? You know Zane's been through a lot. As his friends, we should be helping him, understanding him, and guiding him back to the right path. Chloe was more direct. Lucas Thorne, I never knew you were so petty and selfish. She snapped. Zane is our friend. We're responsible for his struggles. You promised you'd help him, didn't you? Or was that a lie? I get it. Now that Zane's back, Jessica and I aren't paying attention to you. So you're jealous, right? We had run into Zane in an alley behind some dive bar in Rockport City. He'd racked up huge gambling and drinking debts with some loan sharks and was about to be beaten to death. I was the one who stepped in and saved him. Learning about his situation, Jessica and Chloe were consumed with guilt, somehow deciding his downfall was our fault. If I hadn't left him back then, if I'd been there for him during the darkest time in his life and showed him love and hope, maybe he wouldn't have turned out this way. It's all my fault, Jessica had sobbed, her eyes red as she watched Zane's retreating figure. To think that while he was suffering, I was studying peacefully overseas. I hate myself. If Zane can't find happiness, what's the point of my success? Chloe took it a step further, blaming me entirely. Isn't this all Lucas's fault? With his money and power back then, he could send you abroad and make me a star. You're telling me he didn't know what Zane was going through? He probably did it on purpose, keeping us away from Zane. He's the one who ruined him. They were desperate to save Zane, so they begged me to find him a job. But Zane was a high school dropout with no degree who couldn't even use Microsoft Office. The only place I could put him was on a factory assembly line. On his first day, he got into a fight with the shift supervisor, then hid in a server room to smoke, causing a short circuit that started a fire. The company lost nearly $10 million. Then Jessica and Chloe came to me in tears, insisting we couldn't give up on him. They claimed he was a great driver and begged me to hire him as my personal chauffeur. That very night, Zane got drunk, broke into my house to show off with my new car, and put me in the hospital. And now they were all standing here, waiting for my apology. Seeing my silence, Zane went into full self-destruct mode. I know you all look down on me. Fine, let me rot in the gutter. Why pretend to be saints? You say you want to help, but you just want to step on me to feel better about your own perfect lives, right? He pulled a key fob to my hypercar from his pocket and threw it on the ground. I quit. I don't want anything to do with any of you. I'd rather get jumped by thugs than be your damn charity case. As Zane turned to leave, Jessica grabbed his arm. Zane, don't be like this. Lucas didn't mean it. We'll make him apologize. You promised us you'd turn your life around, that you'd try. Please, just give us one more chance. Chloe turned to me, her voice sharp with an ultimatum. Apologize to Zane. If you don't, Jessica and I will never speak to you again. The cracks in my heart widened into a chasm. I looked at their familiar faces and felt the full weight of my wasted efforts. An entire decade of my life poured into them with everything I had for this. I allowed a cold laugh. I will not apologize. And from this day forward, I will not interfere in your lives. Everyone is responsible for their own choices. I have already done everything I could for you, I said. You're the ones who insist on chaining yourselves to him. Remember the choice you're making today. Whatever happens next, you'll bear the consequences alone. In short, don't ever bother me again. Jessica and Chloe's expressions turned ugly. I had always treated them like princesses, indulging their every whim as long as it didn't cross a moral line. But now, I was free. The system no longer bound me. From now on, I would live for myself. Jessica's lip trembled, tears welling in her eyes. Lucas, why are you doing this? This doesn't have to be a choice. Chloe scoffed. You really think that threat works on us? Let me remind you, it was always you begging for our attention. Why don't we make a little bet? Let's see who comes crawling back first. If you want to bet, I said calmly, then let's bet. I ignored them, turning my wheelchair back toward my room. My parents called, frantic after hearing about the accident. I'm fine, but the fractures will take a few months to heal. Get the house in New York ready. I'm coming home next week, I said into the phone. There was a hesitant pause. Lucas, you're not getting any younger. It's time you thought about settling down. Your father and I have found a potential match for you, and her family is very interested in a meeting. We just wanted to ask, what are your intentions with Jessica and Chloe? If you like them, we'll find a way to decline the offer. Failure meant I was trapped in this world. I had to start planning for my own future. I took a deep breath, set up the meeting. My flight back to New York was a week away. The doctor said my legs wouldn't be stable enough to travel until then. It gave me just enough time to handle a few things. Mr. Thorne, your villa in the city is in a prime location. The renovations alone cost millions. Are you sure you want to sell it? My assistant asked. I stared at the photos on the real estate app, a haze of memories clouding my mind. That villa was, for all intents and purposes, for Jessica and Chloe. It had the custom-built library Jessica always wanted, filled with rare first editions I'd spent years hunting down for her across the globe. Chloe loved to swim and was obsessed with marine life, so I built her a private indoor pool with a massive aquarium wall, a place for her to relax with her friends. And in the garden, the three of us built a sunroom with our own hands, planting it with our favorite flowers, which I meticulously cared for so it would always be in bloom for their visits. Now, it was all just a monument to my foolish devotion and their betrayal. Yes, I said. Just get it sold as quickly as possible. Of course, sir. I'll have the property disposed of before you leave for New York. After my assistant left, my legal team arrived. Mr. Thorne, we've contacted the factory regarding the fire Mr. Garrett started, and we are moving forward with a police report regarding his trespassing, attempted theft of your vehicle, and the assault that caused your injuries. We will be pursuing full damages. However, the lead lawyer hesitated. We've heard that Ms. Moore and Ms. Sullivan have retained counsel. Should we? Everyone knew how much I'd spoiled Jessica and Chloe. How many times had Jessica bent the rules at her family's company to prove herself, and I'd cleaned up the mess? How many times had Chloe, still an artist signed to my entertainment label, breach her contract? I'd always look the other way, telling my lawyers to stand down. Now, I gave a simple order. Ignore them. Proceed according to protocol. Yes, sir, he said with a nod. After they left, I turned on the TV in my hospital room. A crowd of reporters had cornered Jessica and Chloe at the hospital entrance. One of them asked Chloe about her relationship with Zane, speculating they were a couple. In front of the cameras, Chloe said, "How could I ever be good enough for someone like Zane? He was my high school crush, my ideal man. But so many years have passed. We're adults now. It's best not to bring up the past." The good girl, actress admitting to a past crush, sent the media into a frenzy. Cameras flashed wildly in Zane's face. Jessica stepped forward, shielding him from the lenses. Zane is a private citizen. He's someone Chloe and I will protect at all costs. We don't want his life disturbed. Please delete any photos and videos you've taken immediately. Throughout it all, Zane stood behind them in sunglasses, hands in his pockets, radiating an air of smug arrogance. Seeing an heiress and an A-list star running defense for him only made the press more rabid. Then, a reporter shouted a question. "Ms. Sullivan, your company has a strict no-dating clause for its artists. Aren't you afraid that revealing your past feelings like this will alienate your fans and anger Mr. Thorne?" At the mention of my name, Chloe's expression hardened. She looked directly into the camera, as if speaking to me. "What am I afraid of?" She sneered. "Some people think that because they hired a few tutors for me and financed a couple of my movies, they're my saviors. But let me make one thing clear. Thorne Media needs me. I, Chloe Sullivan, have the talent to be a star at any agency. A diamond is going to shine no matter where it is. It wasn't Thorne Media that made me. I was their cash cow. Go ask Lucas Thorne. I dare to walk away from my contract. Does he dare to let me go?" Once that interview hit the airwaves, it caused an uproar. The comment sections were flooded with fans chanting Queen and Slay Girl, tagging me and telling me to grovel. Her top fan clubs started a tearful campaign. To Mr. Thorne, please stop inserting yourself into the narrative. My girl got where she is through her own hard work. Either give her better resources or set her free. El Mio, is she finally leaving? Lucas Thorne, my girl's got the guts to quit. Do you have the guts to accept? The PR team at my company nearly had a collective heart attack. The head of the department called me, his voice shaking. I paused for a moment. If she wants out, I said, let her out. After the company issued the official statement terminating her contract, I blocked Chloe's number. My life in this world had always revolved around Jessica and Chloe, leaving me almost no time for myself. It felt like a massive weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The relief was intoxicating. 3 days after blocking Chloe, I got a call from Jessica. She didn't even say hello. How could you just terminate Chloe's contract? You know what she's like. She was just lashing out. None of it was real. She was just waiting for you to apologize. What would it cost you? I was silent for a beat. Is there something you need? If this was just about Chloe, she would have called the day it happened, not 3 days later. As expected, her tone shifted. We received a summons from the police and a notice from the court. You actually reported it? And you're suing Zane for damages? How could you be so cruel? Are you trying to destroy us? I scoffed internally. Of course, it was about Zane. Yes, I said. Zane's case has been turned over to my legal team. If you have any objections, you can speak with them. I don't have time. Wait, she yelled as I was about to hang up. She took a deep breath, her voice laced with threat. Chloe said if you're willing to apologize to Zane and drop all the charges, we'll forgive you. She'll even re-sign with the company. Is there anything else? I asked calmly. Her voice rose in frustration. What if I'm part of the deal? You don't care about Chloe, but you have to care about me, right? There was a time when I did have stronger feelings for Jessica. Chloe was like a little sister I could spoil and protect, but I never saw her romantically. With Jessica, I had genuinely hope for something more. Now, she had shattered even that last hope. I laughed, a hollow sound. What could you possibly have left to threaten me with? Most of the current projects at her family's company were ones I had given them. Jessica was a newcomer to the business world. Without my guidance, she would have been eaten alive by competitors long ago. But her next words were laced with venom. If you don't drop the charges against Zane, if you insist on making his life hell, then Thorn Industries can forget about participating in the South Harbor Development Project. I almost laughed out loud. The city's South Harbor Project, a massive commercial undertaking meant to create a new financial hub, was originally awarded to my company, Thorn Industries. I had planned to cut her family's company, More Enterprises, in on a piece of the action. It was Jessica who had pleaded with me, saying she needed a major achievement to solidify her position after taking over. I handed the lead role to her, even though More Enterprises was barely large enough to handle a project of that scale. And now she was using it to threaten me? Jessica gathered herself, delivering her final ultimatum. I've given you a chance. You have 3 days. If I don't get the answer I want, you know the consequences. After hanging up, I made another call to one of my executives. We're pulling More Enterprises from the South Harbor project. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Sir, More Enterprises has invested a huge amount of capital and manpower into this. If we cut them out now, it could bankrupt them. What about Ms. Moore? Then let them sink, I said. I blocked all of Jessica's numbers. On the 7th day, my assistant stood before me. Mr. Thorne, the villa has been sold. Your private jet to New York is ready. We depart in 2 hours. I nodded and, with his help, left the hospital in my wheelchair. Just as we reached the exit, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Chloe, her voice shrill with anger. Lucas Thorne, why is the villa locked up? You might be in a hospital, but Jessica and I still use it. I brought friends over to swim, and now we're all stuck outside the gate. Are you trying to make my life miserable on purpose? Also, what happened with that Warren Hughes movie? My agent said they stopped calling. I have an opening in my schedule. I hung up before she could finish. A moment later, Jessica's parent called. Lucas, what's this about the South Harbor project? You promised you'd let More Enterprises lead it. In the background, I could hear Jessica's tearful voice. Lucas Thorne, I said you couldn't participate. Not that we wouldn't. Why did you take the project back? Are you just going to stand by and watch us go bankrupt? I hung up on them, too. Then I popped the SIM card out of my phone, snapped it in half, and dropped it into a trash can. Let's go, I told my assistant. Back in New York, when I saw the woman my parents had arranged for me to meet, I was stunned. Scarlett Vance. In the original novel, she was a minor villain, a character the author threw in to create conflict for the male lead. She was the only female character in the entire book who despised him. In that story, Zane Garrett had a brief stint in prison after dropping out of high school. After his release, he ended up as a bodyguard for Scarlett's father and saved his life in a car crash. As a reward, Mr. Vance promised him his only daughter's hand in marriage. But Scarlett looked down on Zane, calling him a pathetic freeloader and fighting tooth and nail to break the engagement. Her defiance led to a predictably tragic end. The Vance family went bankrupt, and Scarlett, trying to save the company, got mixed up with loan sharks. Under Zane's influence, she was ultimately stripped naked and forced to kneel and apologize to him. And now, she was sitting across from me. Mrs. Thorne, don't you worry, Scarlett said sweetly to my mother. Lucas is such an amazing man. It would be my honor to marry him. To be honest, I've had a crush on him for ages. I'll take wonderful care of him and be the perfect wife. Her mother shot her a look and discreetly pinched her arm. Scarlett, mind your manners. This is just a first meeting. He hasn't said he'll marry you. A young lady should have some restraint. Don't make a fool of yourself. Scarlett was the archetypal pampered princess, petite and lovely, with flawless skin and delicate features. It was clear she'd been doted on her whole life. One look and you could understand why she'd never fall for a high school dropout bodyguard like Zane. Her father looked at us sheepishly. We've spoiled Scarlett rotten. But our family is very serious about this alliance. Scarlett is our only daughter. When we retire, everything we have will go to her and her husband. Seeing how much her parents adored her, a pang of sadness hit me. How could they, in the future, bear to force their cherished daughter to marry someone like Zane? But then a thought struck me. According to the original plot, Scarlett shouldn't have appeared until much later in the story, and she certainly shouldn't have had any connection to me. Her story was intertwined with Zane Garrett. Why was she seeking me out now? Had my presence altered the course of the entire narrative? Or had something else happened to her that I didn't know about? My mother was completely charmed by her potential daughter-in-law. Oh, I just love her. Scarlett's straightforward and cheerful personality is exactly what we need. Not like my Lucas, who keeps everything bottled up. I adored this girl the moment I saw her. Even if you two don't get married, I want to adopt her as my own daughter. At that, Scarlett's parents stood up. Well then, let's us old folks go have some tea over there and give the young people some space to talk. Her mother gave Scarlett a meaningful look. Lucas is injured. You take good care of him. Scarlett beamed and nodded. The moment our parents were out of earshot, the smile on her face vanished. She turned to me, her expression all business. I know you don't like me and have no intention of marrying me, but I need this engagement. Just give me 3 years. Name your price. I guarantee you won't regret it. I raised an eyebrow. What was her game? My mother had told me Scarlett herself had insisted on this meeting, claiming she had a huge crush on me. But looking at her now, that was clearly a lie. Unless she didn't actually want to marry me, but needed the title of being my fiancé, a shield to protect her from something or someone. My gaze sharpened. And if I say no, I asked, testing her. Scarlett's brow furrowed. 3 years. We don't even have to get legally married. When the time is up, I'll be the one to call it off. As compensation, I'll give you 20% of the shares in Vance Industries. How about it? A slow smile spread across my face. I don't need the money. You don't need it, but you're a businessman, she countered instantly. And businessmen pursue profit. It's a natural order of things. She paused, her eyes glinting. Besides, I know that you're in your current situation because of a man named Zane Garrett. Get engaged to me, and I'll take care of him for you. I'll get your revenge. What do you say? I froze. How did Scarlett Vance know Zane's name? Was her reason for seeking this engagement a way to escape him? I considered it, but it didn't seem likely. Perhaps she'd heard his name when Jessica and Chloe were interviewed. Everyone in our circle knew about my relationship with him, so she might have assumed Zane and I were enemies. And the fact that he'd caused a fire at my factory and then run me over was a matter of public record now. If she'd looked into it, she could have found out. But did she know, right now, that Zane Garrett was the man who would one day ruin her family and destroy her life? Thinking of the horrific fate that awaited her for defying him, I made a decision. That won't be necessary. I can handle my own affairs, I said. However, I'm not entirely opposed to an engagement. I just have a few conditions. Scarlett's downfall was triggered by her refusal to marry Zane. If she already had a fiancé, her father would never promise her to him. It was the most direct way to save her. Furthermore, in the novel, her downfall was accelerated by her reckless attempts at revenge. So, my condition was this. If we get engaged, you will be the future lady of the Thorne family. Your every word and action will reflect on us. Therefore, I ask that you think before you act and, preferably, consult with me first. Can you do that? She looked at me, incredulous. That's it? That's your condition? I gave her a faint smile. Let's see if you can manage it first. As we were leaving the restaurant, I got a call from Warren Hughes, one of the country's most acclaimed action film directors. Lucas, you'd better get down to the set. Chloe is here, and she's making a scene. Warren was in the middle of a massive new project, a film packed with A-listers and veteran actors. I had invested heavily and pulled a lot of strings to get Chloe the leading female role. What was she doing now? As I started to head for the studio, I felt my wheelchair being pushed from behind. I turned in surprise to see Scarlett. She gave me a bright smile. My mom told me to take good care of you. Besides, you agreed to the engagement, which makes me your fiancé. I go where you go. Where are we going? I'll come with you. I sighed. Chloe and Scarlett both had stubborn, fiery personalities. Putting them in the same room was asking for trouble. Then again, Jessica and Chloe would find out about my engagement eventually. Better they hear it straight from the source. When Scarlett and I arrived at the film set, we found Jessica and Zane were there too. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Chloe was pointing at a handsome actor in costume. I don't like the male lead. I refuse to work with him. I brought in the most investment for this film, so I should have the final say. Otherwise, you won't even be able to start shooting. She declared, I want Zane to be my leading man. Director Hughes looked exasperated. Ms. Sullivan, don't push your luck. I admit, you brought in a significant investment at the start, but that was Mr. Thorne's money. Frankly, your image and skills aren't the right fit for the heroine. I rewrote parts of the script to accommodate you as a favor to Mr. Thorne. Look around this set. Every actor here is more talented than you. Blake Jensen may not be as famous as you, but he has more experience and more skill. You want to replace him with someone who has zero professional training? That's an insult to all of us. He paused, adding, furthermore, I recall Thorne Media announced they terminated your contract. Are you now trying to use Thorne Industries' investment to shove your own people into my production and demanding the lead role? No less. Not even Mr. Thorne himself would agree to such a demand. At the mention of her contract, Chloe's face flushed with anger. For days, she had been the laughingstock of the industry. She had genuinely believed she was the company's cash cow, forgetting that I had only started an entertainment division to launch her career in the first place. I had poured all my resources into her, so of course she became the label's biggest star. She'd gotten arrogant, thinking she could fly without me. Reality had hit her hard. Since Thorne Media dropped her, she'd been replaced in all her upcoming roles, and her endorsement deals had vanished. The rival agencies that had been trying to poach her were now ghosting her calls. Overnight, she'd gone from an A-lister to a nobody. But still, she refused to back down. It doesn't matter. I'm the one who brought in that money. She insisted. Would Lucas Thorne have invested in your movie if it wasn't for me? We're already halfway through filming. If you don't agree to replace him, I'm walking. Let's see how you finish this movie then. Just then, Jessica stepped forward. Director Hughes, as I recall, More Enterprises also invested in this project. As a backer, don't I have a say in casting? Well, I'm telling you now, I don't like the chosen male lead. Replace him. Immediately, the director was caught in the middle. The crew and the veteran actors on set were fuming. Finally, Hughes offered a compromise. Look, how about this? We can't replace the male lead, but I can write in a significant supporting role for him. No. Chloe cut him off. If my Zane is going to be in a movie, he's going to be the star. Why would he settle for a supporting role? Zane, meanwhile, was lounging in Chloe's premium director's chair under a large parasol, coolly sipping a drink. Chloe turned to him, eager to please. Zane, don't worry. I'll make sure you get this part. Honestly, every time I have to do a scene with the current lead, I want to throw up. The thought of acting opposite you. I think I could really get into character. Zane put his drink down and grunted in satisfaction. As the standoff continued, Scarlett, who had been watching silently, suddenly spoke up. Am I allowed to hit them? I looked up at her, surprised, and said, let's try to be civilized. A wicked smile played on her lips. All right, civilized it is. She stepped forward into the tense circle. Her eyes landed on Zane, and she raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Where did this piece of gutter trash come from? Get out. Chloe, seeing her hero insulted, flew into a rage. Who the hell are you? Do you have any idea who I am? Do you know who he is? Scarlett replied with a lazy drawl. You've been fired by Thorne Media, and you're still chirping this loud? Well, I suppose it fits. One piece of trash, one stray dog. A perfect match, really. Again, Chloe was so furious she was trembling, unable to speak. Jessica stepped in, her voice dripping with condescension. Miss, how can you speak like that? Have you no manners? Scarlett theatrically cleaned out her ear, then waved a hand in front of her face. Ugh, vintage drama queen, the scent is strong with this one. But it's the stench of desperation that's really getting to me. This time I was speechless. So much for being civilized. Her attack power was off the charts. Jessica's face went from white to red, her eyes filling with tears. You're saying I smell of desperation? I'd read the script for this movie and had faith in the director. In the original novel, this film became a box office champion, breaking records and sweeping award season. I knew it was a guaranteed hit that would bring enormous benefits to its actors. That's why I had fought so hard to get Chloe the role, and had even encouraged Jessica to invest. But at the time, Jessica was still jealous of Chloe, viewing her as a rival for my affections, so she'd only reluctantly thrown in $20 million. Now, Scarlett stood tall and declared, "You invested $20 million. I invested $200 million. If you're not the desperate one, who is?" I froze again. Vance Industries had no business in the entertainment sector. In the original story, they never invested in this film. In fact, missing this very opportunity was what led to the company's financial troubles and eventual bankruptcy. Why would Scarlett invest $200 million? Then I noticed it. Zane, who had been lounging comfortably, had a completely different look in his eyes now that Scarlett had appeared. It was the look of a venomous snake coiled in the shadows, ready to strike at its most hated enemy. Why? He shouldn't even know who she is. Was it just because she called him gutter trash? Scarlett continued, her voice ringing with authority. "I think Blake Jensen is perfect for the lead. Since you all believe investment equals influence, and my investment is 10 times yours, I believe my opinion holds more weight. Is that correct?" She shot a look at Jessica and Zane, her voice dripping with disdain. "Take your grotesque leading man and get out. He's not fit to be the star. He's not even fit to be an extra." Chloe's teeth were chattering with rage. "On what grounds?" she shrieked. "When it comes to investment, Lucas Thorne put in $1 billion. He has more say than anyone." Scarlett let out a laugh. "Yes, he does. But the key difference is, you're not Lucas Thorne, are you?" Chloe deflated. "You've already terminated your contract," Scarlett pressed, "but you're still out here using your former employer's name to throw your weight around? What do you call that?" Enraged, Chloe lunged at her. "Who do you think you're calling a fraud?" Scarlett caught her wrist midair. With a sharp twist, she threw Chloe off balance. "Isn't that what you are?" She sneered. "You made such a scene online, demanding Lucas let you go, swearing he wouldn't dare, claiming you'd be better off without him. And what happened?" Scarlett clicked her heels on the pavement, looking down at Chloe with disgust. "Now that you're free from Thorne Media, why are you still clinging to a role secured with their resources? What are you, an ungrateful parasite? Or just a beggar with too much pride?" Chloe was losing her mind. "Lucas and I grew up together." She screamed. "We're just having a little fight. A few words, and we'll make up. This is our private business. What right does an outsider like you have to interfere? You just wait. I'll call Lucas right now, and we'll see who's in charge here." At the word outsider, Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "Why don't you ask Lucas if I'm an outsider?" Under the stunned gazes of everyone present, Scarlett announced, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. Lucas and I just got engaged. I'm his fiancée, which means at least $1.2 billion of this film's investment belongs to us. I want Blake Jensen as the male lead, and I want the troublemakers kicked off this set." She scanned the crowd. Any objections? The word fiancé hung in the air, stunning Chloe and Jessica into silence. Then Chloe burst out laughing. "Fiancé? You Lucas's fiancé? That's impossible." She looked Scarlett up and down with derision. "You don't even bother to workshop your lies, do you? Go ask anyone. Everyone knows who Lucas belongs with. Even if I don't marry him, there's still Jessica. We've been by his side for 10 years. Who the hell are you?" She circled Scarlett like a predator. "Did you think just because we're having a little disagreement with Lucas, any stray cat could just wander in and try to take our place?" Chloe triumphantly pulled out her phone. "You just wait. I'm calling Lucas right now. Let's see you keep up this act." But Scarlett calmly produced her own phone. "Didn't my fiancé already block your number? I doubt the call will go through. Why don't you use mine instead?" A phone began to ring. Every head turned towards the sound, and for the first time, they all noticed me sitting in the shadows. Chloe and Jessica saw me at the same time. Their eyes instantly filled with tears as they rushed over. "Lucas," Jessica began, her voice soft and pleading. "We were thinking if we could get Zane a role in the movie, he'd find a new purpose in life. He could support himself with his own 2 hands." She knelt by my wheelchair, her grip on my arm desperate. You promised you'd help him, didn't you? It's just one role. You're the biggest investor. You got Chloe the lead. Surely getting Zane apart is no problem, right? Chloe pointed a trembling finger at Scarlett. Is our request so unreasonable? And yet the entire crew is bullying us. And this woman, she's completely insane, claiming to be your fiancé. It's absolutely ridiculous. All eyes were on me. Even Director Hughes looked at me, bewildered. Mr. Thorne, when did you get engaged? You never said a word. Chloe shot him a venomous look. Of course it's fake. Everyone knows Lucas loves me, and Jessica. He'll choose one of us eventually. Some nobody from the middle of nowhere should stop trying to latch on before she humiliates herself further. I ignored her and smiled politely at the director. It just happened. I was about to make an announcement when I got your call. I heard there was trouble on set and thought I'd come see for myself, so I brought her along. I apologize for the disruption caused by Thorne Media's past oversight. My words hung in the air. Jessica and Chloe stared at me, their faces a mask of disbelief. Jessica covered her mouth, her voice trembling. Why? Lucas, why? Chloe's shock quickly turned to fury. Lucas Thorne, cut the crap. You're just doing this to get our attention because we've been spending time with Zane, aren't you? You think we'd actually believe this? How could she possibly? Just then, Scarlett walked over and addressed Jessica with a saccharine smile. Could you please take your hand off my fiancé's arm? Jessica's face turned an ugly shade of red. Her hand shot back as if she'd been burned. Scarlett seized the opportunity, sliding into the space next to my wheelchair and looking up at me with wide, innocent eyes. Lucas, darling, I don't like the leading actress in this movie. Can we replace her? I met her gaze and smiled. Of course. My direct acknowledgement of Scarlett as my fiancée sent a fresh wave of shock through Chloe and Jessica. Chloe was the first to break. That's impossible, she shrieked, the realization that Scarlett wanted her fired dawning on her. What about our relationship? You'd really replace me for this woman? I looked up at her, feigning confusion. Scarlett is my fiancée. You are a former artist who terminated her contract with my company. Is a distinction really that difficult? Besides, you started this. Didn't you just say that if Zane couldn't be the male lead, you would quit? Have you already forgotten your own words? Chloe looked as if she'd been slapped. The crew had formed a circle around us, their eyes filled with scorn and satisfaction. The humiliation was crushing. Not long ago, she was the queen of the entertainment world, an untouchable star. Now, falling from such heights, being publicly shamed, it was unbearable. Her eyes welled with tears. She knelt and grabbed my arm. Lucas, I was wrong. I was being childish. I was just trying to get a rise out of you. You didn't really take it seriously, did you? I know you're still mad at me, so I'll apologize. Is that enough? When can I re-sign with Thorne Media? Or I could just go back to the office myself and sign a new contract. We can just forget this whole thing happened, okay? I let out a small, humorless laugh. Weren't you the one who was screaming for freedom? I gave it to you. The termination announcement has been made public. You think you could just say you've changed your mind? What do you think the company's seal is a toy? I looked her straight in the eye. I told you before, adults have to take responsibility for their choices. You can't throw a tantrum demanding freedom and then cry foul when it comes with a price. The world doesn't work that way. But you always used to, she choked out. Yes, she was right. In the past, no matter what tantrum she threw, I would have indulged her, treating it as the antics of a spoiled little sister. But now, the system had severed our bond. I was done dragging these two ungrateful burdens through my life. At that moment, Scarlett's cool voice cut through the air. The past is the past. This is now. And now, Lucas has me. As his fiancé, I don't appreciate other women clinging to him. So, whatever you were before, please do us all a favor and get lost. I suddenly realized there were significant perks to having Scarlett as a fiancé. Her tongue was sharper than a surgeon's scalpel, cutting through all the drama and saving me a world of trouble. And I had to admit, it was immensely satisfying to watch. Jessica and Chloe stood frozen, utterly defeated. Then, Zane finally spoke up. Forget it, he said, his voice laced with contempt. Can't you see? Lucas Thorne never had any intention of helping me. He's just using this to humiliate me. We can lose everything, but we can't lose our dignity. He shot me a smug look. You think you're so great with all your money? Let me tell you something. What goes around comes around. Don't count me out yet. His gaze shifted to Scarlett, colder now, filled with a venomous hatred. One day, I will be bigger than both of you. I'll make everyone who ever looked down on me pay. You'll regret this. In the original novel, Jessica died for him, and he used her memory as fuel to take over Scarlett's family company, becoming a major player in the city. He never once blamed himself for her death, instead directing all his rage at her family for disapproving of their marriage, eventually destroying them in the name of avenging her. Because he was the male lead, the world had to bend to his will. But now, with Scarlett and me united against him, with the Vance family fortune out of his reach and my own family a bulwark against his rise, could he still ride a wave of convenient plot twists to the top? I would make damn sure that never happened. The drama on set quickly became the top story online. An extra had secretly filmed the entire confrontation and posted it with the caption, "You have to see this." A-list actress tries to force her boy toy into a lead role, gets utterly destroyed by her ex-boss and his new fiancé. The video went viral. First, fans of the male lead, Blake Jensen, and the other actors flooded the comments. What is Chloe Sullivan's problem? Everyone knows Blake is the king of action films in this country. My man is a phenomenal actor and does all his own stunts. He's worked with legends. Having to share a screen with some manufactured Pop-Tart was already an insult, and she has the nerve to demand he be replaced? This is workplace bullying. Just because you have money doesn't mean you can treat people like dirt. Relax, she doesn't have money anymore. Didn't you see? Thorne Media cut her loose. Wasn't she the one bragging that Lucas Thorne wouldn't dare drop her? The bigger the ego, the harder the fall. Losing this role is just the beginning. I saw her on set a few times when I visited. She acts like she owns the place. Her acting is the worst in the entire cast, but she has no respect for the veteran actors around her. She deserves to be canceled. As fans celebrated the departure of the cancer from the set, others noticed a different detail. Wait, boss and boss lady? Are they talking about Lucas Thorne and Scarlett Vance? Are they together? Since when? Did you not watch the video? Scarlett claimed it herself, and Lucas didn't deny it. Looks like wedding bells are in their future. The circles of the super rich are small. It's not that surprising. What about Jessica Moore? Weren't there rumors for years that she and Lucas were going to get engaged? They seem so close. How did he suddenly end up with someone else? Amid the online chaos, I received a message from Jessica. She had used a new number to get through my block. Lucas, do you have to be so cruel? Chloe says we can drop the issue with Zane. She wants you to arrange for her to re-sign with Thorne Media immediately. She was just throwing a tantrum before. You can't have taken her seriously? You built her career from nothing, invested so much time and energy into her. Now that you've dropped her, no one else will work with her. Are you trying to kill her career? Everyone is laughing at her. The whole industry is waiting to tear her down. You're the only one who can fix this. The messages kept coming, each one a masterclass in guilt-tripping and moral superiority. I used to think this quality in her was gentleness and kindness. Now I saw it for what it was, blatant hypocrisy. She paused, then turned the focus to herself, launching into a novel-length text. About the South Harbor project, I want to talk. I was impulsive before. I apologize. Moore Enterprises has invested so much into this project. My parents are counting on it. This is my one chance to prove myself to our shareholders and employees. I don't want to lose it. How ironic. One of them was no longer demanding an apology for Zane, now begging just to get her old job back. The other was suddenly capable of self-reflection, groveling for a business deal. It seemed calm reasoning was a language they didn't understand. Only consequences spoke to them. To stop the flood of messages, I replied, "The South Harbor project was always Thorne Industries. You were the one who demanded we stay out of it. You tried to kick the host out of their own party and ended up being thrown out yourself. You have no one to blame but you. And if you want to prove your abilities, do it on your own. Do you really think the projects I handed you were achievements you earned?" Her next message was a voice note, her words choked with sobs. My parents and the board are furious with me for losing the project. They blame me for everything. I have no other choice. I've already apologized. What more do you want? Are you not happy until you've completely ruined us? She paused. Then her voice dropped to a desperate plea. I know your engagement to Scarlett is fake. You're just using her to get to me, right? Go to her right now and clear things up. Issue a public statement clarifying your relationship. You, me, and Chloe, we can go back to how things were. Please. I couldn't even be bothered to listen to the rest of her hysterics. Just then, a message from Scarlett popped up. Don't you think we should make an official announcement? I considered it for a moment, then typed back. Good idea. The official social media accounts of Thorne Industries and Vance Industries simultaneously announced our engagement. The news exploded online, with a flood of congratulations. Jessica's final message came through, laced with heartbreak. So it was all real. Then what were Chloe and I to you? Were those 10 years of kindness all a lie? I once thought my care for them was just a requirement of the system's mission. But you can't spend a decade with people, guiding them step by step, without developing real feelings. Her questions kept coming. All we wanted to do was help Zane. We felt we owed him. We wanted to help him turn his life around. That's a good thing. What did we do that was so wrong? You're throwing us away, abandoning us completely, over something so small? I typed out my last reply to her. But what exactly did you owe him? And what did I owe him? Why was I obligated to fix him? In high school, Zane Garrett was a menace. He would curse out teachers and even get physical with them. Maybe at that age, some people found his rebelliousness cool, but that was a decade ago. Why couldn't Jessica and Chloe see him for what he was now? He got Chloe to skip school to hang out at internet cafes. He introduced her to his low-life friends. He took her, an underage girl, to dive bars to see the world, which almost resulted in her being assaulted. Is that what you owe him for? During that time, the teacher put you in charge of collecting his homework. He decided you were out to get him, so he and his friends would ambush you after school, rip up your textbooks, kick over your desk, and once even poured a bucket of ice water over your head in front of everyone. Is that the debt you feel you need to repay? She hesitated, then finally replied, people are inherently good. He only became this way for a reason. Zane has had a hard life. He acts tough, but deep down, he wants to be better. Why shouldn't we help him? You were willing to help me and Chloe. Why not him? I had nothing left to say to her. If I was going to spend that much time and money saving a lost cause, I'd rather donate it to a charity. I took a deep breath and sent my final message. Because I regret it. I regret helping you two. From now on, you're on your own. After the plan to get Zane into the movie failed, Jessica came up with a new idea. She made him her personal assistant at Moore Enterprises. Less than 2 weeks into the job, he'd already caused a disaster. Unable to operate basic office equipment, he broke the projector during a crucial meeting with a potential partner. The investors, concluding that Moore Enterprises was unprofessional and filled with nepotistic hires, pulled out of the deal. When Jessica's parents found out she'd brought someone like Zane into the company, they were furious and came to the office to personally fire him. The confrontation wounded Zane's fragile ego. He physically assaulted Jessica's father. Where her mother tried to intervene, he shoved her so hard she fell, triggering a heart attack that left her in a coma. The company was in open revolt. The board demanded Jessica fire Zane, and resignation letters from her entire department piled up on her desk like snow. Just like in the original novel, Jessica was faced with two choices: stand by Zane and lose everything, or abandon him and return to her normal life. And just like in the original novel, she chose Zane. She publicly announced her resignation from Moore Enterprises, choosing to stand with him. When her parents, heartbroken by her decision, threatened to disown her, she walked away without a second thought. That day, she posted a declaration on her Instagram. Once, I left you to see the splendors of the world. Now, I return to take your hand and walk with you through the darkness and pain. If we must fall, we will fall together. Unlike in the original story, this time Jessica left her family with a substantial fortune and years of business experience. She immediately founded a new company, signed Chloe and Zane as her first artists, and began developing a script tailor-made for them to star as the romantic leads. She and Chloe also pooled their money to pay back every cent Zane owed me for the damages he'd caused. The losses Zane caused you have now been repaid in full. I hope you and your money have a very happy life together. Her message read, someone who only sees profit, who has no room in their heart for friendship or love, will never find true happiness. On the day their new company launched, the three of them posed for a photo. They stood beaming in front of a wall of flowers. Chloe and Jessica both posted it. Chloe's caption, You weren't invited. Jessica's was more cryptic. It was supposed to be us. I knew it was a message for me. They were telling me that if I hadn't been so stubborn, I would be standing there with them. Because of my betrayal, I was now the one left out in the cold. Did I care? Not in the slightest. A few days later, Scarlett called me. My dad is supposed to attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Pinnacle Center. He hasn't been feeling well lately. Let's go with him. I suddenly remembered a key plot point from the original novel. It was on the day of that very ceremony that Scarlett's father was attacked by mobsters, nearly losing his life. Zane, in his capacity as a bodyguard, saved him. That was the event that prompted Mr. Vance to offer Scarlett's hand in marriage. This time, Zane wasn't his bodyguard. Would the attack still happen? Worried, I arranged for extra security at the event, keeping a close eye on everything. The moment Scarlett, her father, and I stepped out of the car, we were swarmed by reporters. Our recent engagement was still a hot topic, and my presence as the future son-in-law was headline material. Mr. Thorne, how did you and Ms. Vance meet? We've never seen you together before. How did this engagement happen so suddenly? Scarlett looped her arm through mine, grinning. I pursued him, and I was the one who proposed. Her father coughed loudly beside us. I sighed. This girl. In the book, she was so proud and aloof. What had gotten into her? To prevent the media from spinning wild tales, I smiled and added, Scarlett has a wonderful personality, and we connected instantly. The engagement was a mutual decision that seemed to placate her father. Just then, a commotion behind us drew my attention. It was Jessica with Chloe and Zane in tow. The Pinnacle Center opening was the biggest event in the city, attracting all the major business players. Jessica was clearly here to network. It wasn't strange for a celebrity like Chloe to attend, but Zane, between the hospital incident and the film set fiasco, he had become infamous. Jessica was marketing him as a new artist her company had signed, good-looking but with no credits to his name. To the public, he was known for three things. Chloe Sullivan's high school crush, the man she was willing to defy her boss for, and the man the heiress of more enterprises gave up her family for. In other words, a freeloader. Scarlett frowned. What are they doing here? She turned to one of her bodyguards. Keep an eye out. Don't let anyone suspicious get near us. A strange feeling pricked at me again. What's wrong? I asked her. She looked away, her expression guarded. Nothing. Just seeing them gives me a bad feeling, like something terrible is about to happen. When Jessica and Chloe saw us, they approached. I noticed Zane once again glaring at Scarlett with that same venomous expression. Chloe shot us a disdainful look. Putting on a good show. I don't believe for a second you'd actually marry another woman. Is there something you need from my fiancé? Scarlett asked sweetly. Chloe bristled. What fiancé? You think just because you say it, we'll believe it? She glared at me, a scornful smile on her face. I'd advise you to keep a lower profile. It'll be much more embarrassing for you when you realize you were just a pawn he used and discarded. A pawn? I asked. What are you talking about? Scarlett deliberately wrapped her arms around my neck. Maybe we should just go get the marriage license now. I'm afraid if we wait, someone might try to change your mind. I nodded. Whatever you want. The color drained from Jessica and Chloe's faces. Finally, they turned and walked away, fuming. Perhaps because of the extra security, the ribbon-cutting ceremony went off without a hitch. But as Jessica was driving away from the event with Zane, their car was suddenly boxed in by several vans. Before she could react, they were forced off the road, crashing into a guardrail. A group of men with iron bars jumped out and began smashing the car. In the chaos, one of them swung a pipe at Jessica's head. Zane yanked her out of the way just in time, taking the blow himself. Blood streamed down his face. Jessica screamed, throwing herself over him. Oh my God, so much blood, Zane. Why would you do that? I'm not worth it. The attack happened close to the venue. Our car was just passing by, and my bodyguards immediately intervened. The attackers, seeing security and hearing distant sirens, scrambled back into their vans and fled. Scarlett got out of the car, her eyes narrowing as she took in the scene. So, they were after him. Her words hit me like a lightning bolt. A horrifying, unbelievable thought began to form in my mind. Just then, Jessica scrambled over to me, grabbing at my legs. What are you standing there for? Can't you see he's hurt? Call an ambulance. No, take him to the Thorne Family Hospital. He needs the best doctors. I resisted the urge to ask if her own phone was broken. Lives were at stake. I wasn't that cruel. We rushed Zane to the hospital. It turned out to be a minor concussion and a nasty gash. A few days of rest, and he'd be fine. As I was leaving, I saw Jessica standing by the exit, her eyes red and swollen. "Can I talk to you?" she asked. I followed her to a quiet corner of the stairwell. Without warning, she threw herself into my arms. I stiffened, about to push her away, when I heard her whisper, her voice filled with pain, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She pulled back, her tear-filled eyes meeting mine. "Lucas, I am sorry. I know how good you've been to me, and I know what you once felt for me. But now, I have to make a choice." She glanced towards Zane's room. "He loves me. He's willing to do anything for me. He values my life more than his own. He just took a blow for me. I can't leave him." In the past, her words would have shattered my heart. But now I felt nothing, just a quiet emptiness. The feelings I had for her and Chloe were well and truly gone. "And," I asked, my voice flat. She took a step back. "I'm going to be with him. I know you never wanted us to be together, but I already gave up on him once. I can't do a second time. This time, no matter what, I'm choosing him." I was silent for a long moment. "Congratulations," I finally said. She looked at me in disbelief. "Is that all you have to say to me?" What was there to say? That Zane was a lost cause, and choosing him was like jumping into a fire? She already knew that, and she was jumping anyway. This was her choice. She had to live with the consequences. I had spent 10 years trying to guide her onto the right path, to turn her from a tragic victim into a strong, confident woman with a life of her own. And for what? A few weeks back in Zane's orbit, and all that work was undone. Maybe this was who she was meant to be all along. Raised in a gilded cage, she had always hated the strictures of her perfect life. In the original story, when Zane and his friends had cornered her, teased her, and even forcibly kissed her, she hadn't felt fear or anger, but a thrill. My guidance had forced her onto a path she never wanted, making her wear the mask of a good girl for 10 long years. Zane's return gave her an excuse to finally let it all go, to embrace the chaos she secretly craved. It wasn't his main character halo that drew her in. It was her own repressed desires. "I understand, and I respect your choice," I said. Her eyes widened again. "You don't feel anything?" "No lingering attachment. No regret." I thought about it honestly and shook my head. The Jessica I had admired was the one who seemed fragile, but possessed an inner strength, the one who was kind and considerate. But after watching her repeatedly abandon all her principles for Zane, I realized the woman I'd had feelings for was just a fantasy I had created. The real her was someone else entirely. Tears finally streamed down her face. "Good, then I can finally make my choice without guilt or regret." She took a shaky breath. "Thank you for letting me go. I'm going to be very happy." After leaving the hospital, I called Scarlett and asked her to meet me. I'd had my suspicions for a while, but the idea seemed too incredible to believe. Now, I had to know the truth. We met at a coffee shop. The first thing she did was slide a folder across the table. According to my investigation, the men who attacked Jessica today were after Zane. He owes them a lot of money, and in a previous altercation, he permanently crippled their boss's hand. This was their revenge. I didn't look at the file. Instead, I looked at her. "Who are you?" She blinked. "What? Have you lost your mind? You don't recognize me?" I rephrased the question. "How did you know there would be trouble at the ceremony today?" Scarlett was silent for a long time. "You know," she finally said, "I've had my own suspicions about you. For a while now." Then, she told me her story. "In my memory, you were never supposed to exist. There was no all-powerful Thorne family in New York. And Jessica Moore and Chloe Sullivan never had a rich, handsome guardian angel named Lucas Thorne. In the original story," she continued, "Chloe Sullivan died at 18. She never became a star. And Jessica Moore dropped out of college to marry Zane. She never studied abroad, and she certainly never became the CEO of her family's company. From the moment I came back, I noticed things were different, and when I traced all the changes back to their source, the source was you." I raised an eyebrow. "So you sought an engagement with me, too?" A sad smile touched her lips. Her gaze drifted past the window to the sky outside. She was only in her early 20s, a girl who should have been full of life, but in that moment, she seemed decades older, her eyes filled with a cold, deep-seated hatred. "Do you want to hear my story?" she asked. "I grew up as a princess, spoiled by my parents. I was arrogant and thought I was better than everyone. Then one day, my father hired a bodyguard named Zane Garrett. Just because he saved my father's life, my father tried to marry me off to him. I refused. I despised him. And for that, I paid the ultimate price. My father died. My mother died. Our company, everything we had, ended up in Zane's hands. And me." She looked up, her eyes burning like embers. "I was humiliated in the most degrading way possible, forced to kneel before the man I hated most as I took my own life." She clenched her jaw, then took a shaky breath. "I thought that was the end. But then, I woke up, and my life had started over." She slid another file across the table. It was a comprehensive background check on me and the Thorne family, going back years. The Thorne family was my backup plan. My primary mission was to change Jessica and Chloe's fates, but I knew I needed immense wealth and power to do it. So, while I was working on them, I was also using my knowledge of the novel's plot to build Thorne Industries from the ground up. My parents were constructs provided by the system, and the family's wealth was built on my own efforts. There was nothing for her to find. To her, I couldn't be an outsider. I had to be like her, someone who had come back. My other reason was Zane. I was worried that even if I separated him from the girls, his plot armor would eventually kick in and he'd come back as some business prodigy to ruin everything. So, I built my empire in New York, the very city where he was destined to rise, to ensure I could always counter him. But it seemed his plot armor had failed. He was still a complete loser. "I did that," Scarlett said flatly. "From the moment I came back, I started planning my revenge. I carefully derailed every opportunity, every lucky break he was supposed to have. His gambling addiction, the loan sharks he got involved with in Rockport, that was all me. I made sure he owed so much money to the local gangs that he could never leave the city. He was destined to live and die like a sewer rat." She shrugged. "I was hoping he'd just get himself killed, and that would be the end of it. She hadn't counted on me showing up and pulling him out of the gutter, reuniting him with Jessica and Chloe. So you sought the engagement with me when you realized Zane might be making a comeback?" I asked. Scarlett smiled faintly. "It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a plan I'd been considering for a long time. I didn't know who you were, but I had a feeling that you, this new variable in the story, were the key to breaking the cycle. You have money, power, and ability. By aligning myself with you, I knew my father would never be foolish enough to marry me off to Zane. That would buy me the time I needed to deal with him permanently. I thought about Zane's reactions to seeing her. He seems to recognize you. He knows you're working against him. Could he be like you?" "Impossible," she said without hesitation. "If he knew what was coming, my plans in Rockport would never have worked. He must have heard my name from the loan sharks and put two and two together. He hates me for trapping him there." She pushed all the files towards me. "I've told you my story. Now it's your turn." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was trapped in this world, condemned to live out a life in a place that wasn't my own. I thought I would be completely alone. But now here was someone else who understood, in a way, what it was like. I gave her a wry smile. "My situation is a bit more complicated. Jessica and Chloe were my mission. I was sent here to steer them onto the right path, to change their fates. I was close to succeeding. But then, destiny, it seems, had other plans." When I finished my story, Scarlett looked at me, astonished. "So what happens to you now?" I shrugged. "Mission failed. I can't leave. I'm stuck here for good." A slow smile spread across her face. "Well then," she said, her voice laced with a dark humor. "It seems we're partners in crime after all. And so we made a pact. I would help her protect herself from the original plot, and she would help me cut the final ties to Jessica and Chloe, allowing me to live a peaceful life in this world. Meanwhile, Jessica and Chloe's new venture was making moves. After Zane's heroic act, Jessica was more devoted to him than ever. She publicly gifted him half the shares in her new company, making him co-owner. Their entertainment company was officially up and running. But without the backing of Thorne Industries or more enterprises, they were a tiny fish in a vast ocean. The best they could do was produce a low-budget, schlocky web series. The news that Chloe Sullivan, a former A-lister, was now starring in a cheap web drama sent shockwaves through the industry. Her remaining fans were in an uproar. "What the hell is this? This is what you call a better career without Thorn Media? You're a veteran actress, not a rookie. Do you have any career plan at all? This is the best you could do. Have some self-respect. Think about the resources you had at Thorn Media versus this joke of a company. You went from couture and major endorsements to hamming it up in this garbage. It's embarrassing to be your fan. Reporters and fans started digging into Zayn's background. Soon, Chloe's already toxic fan base exploded. Rival fan groups gleefully poured gasoline on the fire. So your idol's ideal man is a chain-smoking, violent, high school dropout? I always thought Chloe Sullivan seemed like a bit of thug. Guess it's true. Birds of a feather flock together. Lucas Thorne must be a miracle worker to turn trash like her into a star. And she wasn't even grateful. Threw it all away for a gangster. I've seen self-destructive behavior before, but I've never seen someone commit career suicide just to spite their benefactor. After that, Chloe's fan base was all but gone. The few who remained either begged her to dump Zayn and focus on her career or flooded Thorn Media's social accounts, pleading with me to take her back. But Chloe was unrepentant. She posted a long, defiant essay online, claiming she was happier and freer now than she ever was at Thorn Media. As for the fans demanding she cut ties with Zayn, impossible. She declared that Zayn was one of the most important people in her life, and that any fan who tried to control her was a fake fan she didn't want anyway. That post was the final nail in the coffin. Her career was officially over. The next time I saw her was on a luxury yacht. I was at a business gathering with some of New York's elite, looking for new investment opportunities. I saw Chloe from a distance, standing awkwardly in a skimpy bikini. There were two types of people at this party, the hosts and their guests, and the people paid to entertain them. Chloe was clearly in the latter category. The sea breeze was cool, and she instinctively wrapped her arms around herself. All the other women dressed like her were draped over wealthy men, pouring drinks and laughing too loudly. She looked at them, then at herself, and a flush of shame crept up her neck. "Zayn, are you sure about this?" She whispered, her voice tight with anger. "You told me this was a swimsuit party. You said there would be big-shot producers here, that if we made the right connections, we could get the funding we need. But this," her gaze flickered to the other women. "I don't do this kind of thing." Of course she didn't. When she was with me, she was a star, a pearl I kept polished and protected. I handled the deals and endorsements. All she had to do was shine. She never had to network, never had to compromise. She thought success in Hollywood was easy. It had made her naive and arrogant. Zayn pulled her aside. "I didn't lie to you. It is a pool party. What else do you do on a yacht? You've worn a bikini in movies before. Just think of it as part of the job." He pointed to a group of men in suits. "See those guys? My buddy introduced me. They backed a bunch of hit movies. If we can get them on our side, we're golden." Now that he was co-owner of the company, Zayn had taken on the role of producer, trying to drum up investments. After all, half the profits were his. As he tried to push her towards the men, I stepped in front of them, a glass of wine in my hand. I looked at Chloe, my expression grim. "Are you really going to do this?" We were done, but I couldn't just stand by and watch her walk into a fire. My presence seemed to trigger a defensive reaction in her. "What's it to you?" She snapped. "Don't forget, Mr. Thorne, we terminated our contract. You're not my boss anymore. You can't tell me what to do. Or are you just afraid we'll actually get the investment and prove you wrong? I try to help, but you can't save someone who is determined to self-destruct." I stepped back. "Do as you please," I said with a slight bow. She shot me a dirty look, muttered something under her breath, and walked away. I finished my meetings and left the yacht, heading to my hotel nearby. The next morning, I was woken by a scream from the room next door. I opened my door to find hotel staff and Zayn Garrett crowded outside. Seeing Zayn, a sense of dread washed over me. Then I heard the voice from inside the room, raw, agonized wail. It was Chloe. "You bastards. You said it was just drinks. What did you do to me?" The hotel room door was ajar. I caught a glimpse of the wreckage inside and immediately stepped back into my own room, dialing Jessica's number. She sounded smug when she answered. Well, having second thoughts. Did you know Zayn brought Chloe to this yacht party?" I asked, cutting her off. "Of course," she said breezily. "There were some potential investors on board. Zayn wanted to introduce Chloe to them. What's wrong with that? He's a co-owner of the company now. He has the right to handle business." I took a deep breath. "You should probably get over here. What are you trying to say? She snapped. Are you bad-mouthing Zane again? Lucas, when are you going to leave us alone? Chloe, and I already paid you back for everything. He doesn't owe you anything anymore. Why can't you stop targeting him? He's finally trying to get his life together. Stop causing trouble. I held my phone out towards the wall, letting her hear the desperate sobs from the next room. Jessica fell silent. By the time she arrived, Zane was screaming at Chloe. What are you making a scene for? All you had to do was have a few drinks with Mr. Davis and Mr. Reed. It got late, so we got you a room. You think I believe you've been in this industry for years and have never done something like this? Stop playing the innocent victim. Chloe was crumpled on the floor, her hair a mess, her body covered in suggestive bruises. The bikini she'd been wearing was torn to shreds on the floor. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. So you knew? All of this. Her eyes, bloodshot and filled with tears, bored into him. You set this up? I did no such thing. Zane shot back. I brought you to meet clients. You're the one who got drunk. I was tired, so I went to my own room to sleep. How was I supposed to know where you ended up? Zane Garrett. She shrieked, launching herself at him. He easily caught her wrists and threw her back onto the floor. Enough, he roared. Are you new to this business? You can't protect yourself, and that's my fault? Besides, I didn't hear you screaming for help last night. Looks to me like you were enjoying yourself. It was a horrifying echo of her original fate. 10 years ago, she had been the one to die for him. Now, he was the one who had led her to her doom. Chloe's cries turned to enraged sobs. Zane, do you have a conscience? How could you become this person? After everything Jessica and I have done for you, everything we've sacrificed. I used to have fans who loved me everywhere I went. I had endless movie roles, awards, endorsements. People in this industry respected me. Would any of this have happened if it wasn't for you? Tears streamed down her face as she finally saw him for who he truly was. I thought you were a good person deep down, that you were loyal. I thought you were my friend. But what am I to you? When you brought me onto that yacht, did you think for even a second about our friendship? When you handed me over to those men, did you feel even a flicker of guilt? Do you have a soul? Zane felt no remorse. Give me a break, he sneered. Since we started this company, I've learned a few things about how this industry works. Actresses use their bodies to get ahead. It's normal. The company needs to make money, and so do I. We can't just throw cash at you and get nothing in return. Jessica had been standing in the doorway the whole time, watching the scene unfold. She stared at Zane as if he were a complete stranger. I had to agree. The Zane in the novel, for all his faults, still had a shred of decency. He had felt guilt when Chloe died for him. But this Zane, he had personally thrown her to the wolves without a second thought. Had Scarlett's interference, her systematic destruction of his luck, twisted him into something even worse? A man with no morals, driven only by greed? Suddenly, Jessica rushed in and slapped Zane across the face. Zane, Chloe is our friend. She cried. After everything she's done for you. How could you? Are you even human? Zane touched his cheek, a red handprint already forming. When Jessica tried to hit him again, he shoved her away. That's enough, he yelled. I'm doing all of this for you and the baby. Without money, how am I supposed to marry you? I can't have your family looking down on me forever. She's an artist signed to our company. What she does for us is our decision. Why are you defending her? At the mention of a baby, my eyes shot to Jessica. She was pregnant with Zane's child. Chloe, still on the floor, began to laugh, a broken, hysterical sound. She picked up a shred of her ruined bikini and held it up. That's right, what am I? Just a piece of meat you can sell to the highest bidder. Her face was pale, her expression one of utter defeat. Zane, I regret everything. This is all my fault. I did this to myself. Chloe was dead. She killed herself in her rented apartment after returning from the yacht. The money she had earned at Thor Media would have been enough to live comfortably for the rest of her life, but she had given it all away to save Zane from the consequences of his actions. And this was her reward. Her death rocked the entertainment industry. She left a suicide note saying how much she regretted leaving my company and how she never should have trusted Jessica and Zane. But Chloe was a fighter. In her final act, she went to the police, ensuring that her death would bring Zane and the men who assaulted her into the spotlight. The scandal was on the front page of every paper. What do you think Jessica will do now? Scarlett asked when she heard the news. I considered it as I moved a chess piece. She won't turn on him. She'll do everything she can to protect him. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Really? She has no bottom line. Then she remembered the original novel. Right. She has no bottom line. In the book, Jessica had given up everything for Zane. Her family, her education, her future. She had endured poverty, infidelity, and repeated miscarriages, all in the name of love. Even as she lay dying in childbirth, her only thought was of him. A person like that wouldn't be swayed by the death of a friend. Sure enough, Jessica came to see me. She placed an envelope on the table. This is all the money I have left. And I asked. She instinctively touched her stomach. My child can't grow up without a father. Zane told me he didn't know those men would go that far. He thought it would just be drinks. He didn't mean for this to happen. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. Can you please just drop the investigation into what happened at the hotel? Just let it go, please. I studied her face. She was almost unrecognizable. The confident, radiant O was gone, replaced by a tired, worn-out woman with dark circles under her eyes. She was beginning to look just like the tragic figure from the novel. You're giving this money to the wrong person, I said coldly. You should use it to buy some flowers for Chloe's grave. Maybe if you beg her for forgiveness, she'll stop haunting your dreams. A flicker of fear crossed her face. I stood up. Jessica, I'm going to tell you this one last time. You can judge a person's character by how they treat others. If he could do that to Chloe, he can do it to you. You believe he loves you now, but one day, you might just end up like her. I pushed the envelope back towards her. Go. This has nothing to do with me. There were plenty of witnesses that day. You can't buy my silence. And even if you could, I'm not the only one you'd have to worry about. Even if I did nothing, Scarlett would never let Zane get away with it. Her entire second life was dedicated to ensuring he paid for what he did. With her influence, the story of Chloe's death became a national outrage. The public demanded justice, and the men who assaulted her were arrested. They confessed everything. Zane had arranged the whole thing, telling them Chloe was an easy target and that for the right price, they could do whatever they wanted. But by the time the police went to arrest Zane, he was gone. The subsequent investigation unearthed the full extent of his depravity. He had a gambling addiction that had driven his family into ruin, his father dying of a heart attack and his mother falling gravely ill. The story he had told us about borrowing money for his mother's medical bills was a lie. He was, and always had been, a complete degenerate. A warrant was issued for his arrest. A few days later, there was another murder. This time, the victim was Jessica. The police discovered she was the one who had tipped Zane off, helping him escape. They had both fled back to Rockport City to hide, but for some reason, Zane had turned on her. He had stabbed her repeatedly, focusing his rage on her pregnant stomach. This time, Jessica hadn't miscarried a dozen of his children. Instead, he had taken her life and the life of their unborn child with a dozen thrusts of a knife. The manhunt for Zane escalated to a national level. Scarlett and I were on high alert, worried he might come after us next. But in a shocking twist, Zane returned to New York. The next time I saw him, it was on the roof of a skyscraper. He had a knife to Scarlett's throat. The streets below were a sea of flashing lights and police barricades. Zane demanded to see me. To de-escalate the situation, I went up to the roof. When he saw me, a twisted smile spread across his face. Well, all my enemies together at last. You have no enemies here, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. From his perspective, all I had done was remove Jessica and Chloe from his life. He couldn't know my true purpose. He had no logical reason to hate me this much. You think I don't know? He screamed, his eyes wild. From the moment you transferred to our high school, everything started going wrong for me. And you, he spat, glaring at Scarlett. I don't even know you. Why are you so obsessed with destroying me? So Scarlett had been right. He wasn't a reincarnator. He was just a man who had been blessed with the universe's favor. And when that favor was taken away, he couldn't handle it. Without Chloe and Jessica fawning over him, without his lucky breaks, he was nothing. If it weren't for you, they would have been mine. He raved. I would have married Jessica, taken over her family's company. My life would have been perfect. And Chloe, she was in love with me. But then you showed up, and suddenly they only had eyes for you. From that moment on, my luck ran out. Every opportunity one had, this woman, he gestured with a knife at Scarlett, found a way to ruin it. You think I don't know you're the one who sicked the cops on me? He dragged Scarlett towards the edge of the roof. You ruined my life. You took my money, my women, everything. A thin line of blood appeared on Scarlett's neck. Lucas, this has nothing to do with you, she said, her voice steady. Why did you come up here? I've already died once. Taking him with me is a worthy end. She grabbed onto Zane's arm, her eyes pleading with me. Go. Get out of here. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Going somewhere. Zane sneered. Nobody's leaving this roof today. As his knife pressed deeper into Scarlett's skin, I lunged, grabbing his hand. In the struggle, he shoved Scarlett towards the edge. She screamed as she tumbled over the side. My mind went blank. I threw myself forward, my fingers just managing to catch her hand. I strained to pull her up, my muscles screaming in protest, when I saw Zane staggering towards me, the knife still in his hand. Scarlett's eyes widened in horror. Let go. Lucas, let me go. Run. He'll kill you. I don't want to owe you my life. Just go. I gritted my teeth and pulled harder. A searing pain shot through my back as Zane's knife found its mark. I almost blacked out, but the sight of the dizzying drop below forced me to hold on. My blood splattered onto Scarlett's face. She started to cry. You idiot. Let go. Our engagement was fake. Why are you doing this? You're going to die. A faint smile touched my lips. If I died in this world, would I really die? Or would the system, seeing my noble sacrifice, finally let me go home? But in that moment, as she screamed at me to save myself, my heart softened. This sharp-tongued, fierce girl, I think I had fallen for her. As Zane raised the knife for a second strike, a gunshot echoed from the opposite rooftop. Zane grunted, his eyes wide with surprise, and then he fell, his body tumbling silently into the abyss below. Police officers swarmed the rooftop, helping me pull Scarlett to safety. The last thing I remember was the sound of sirens as the world faded to black. I woke up in a hospital room. The first thing I saw was Scarlett, her face streaked with tears. You're awake, she cried, throwing her arms around me. I thought if you died, I would die with you. Maybe then I could start over again, go back and find a way to save you. I managed a weak smile. Who was it that said our engagement was fake? Was I worth dying for? She met my gaze, her own eyes red and swollen. Was I? I thought for a moment. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I just thought, you might be the only friend I have in this world. Without you, no one would know where I came from. I couldn't bear the thought of being that alone. A watery smile touched her lips. And how do you know I wouldn't be lonely without you? Our eyes dropped to our intertwined hands. Scarlett blushed and quickly pulled away. The police confirmed that Zane had murdered Jessica. He had convinced her to help him escape, but at the last minute, decided that her pregnancy would make her a liability. He had demanded all her remaining money, and when she told him she had none left, he had flown into a rage and killed her. Scarlett sighed. She really brought it on herself. If only she had seen him for what he was sooner. If she hadn't helped him escape, if she had just let the police do their job, she would still be alive. Now, she was just another one of his victims. Well, I said softly, it's finally over. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Scarlett looked at me, a strange mix of relief and sadness in her eyes. Then she blushed again. Yes, so our engagement can end now. I looked at her, saying nothing. A few moments of silence passed, and then she huffed, annoyed. If you don't say something to stop me, I'm really going to call it off. I finally smiled, taking her hand in mine again. A deal's a deal. You're not getting out of it that easily. The system had condemned me to live out my days in this world. I thought I was destined for a life of loneliness. But now I had found someone who understood. With her by my side, even in this strange, borrowed life, the future finally seemed bright.